There are two things you can never have enough of: whimsy and jewelry. Now, I love fantasy aesthetics, fairycore, whimsical jewelry, but it can be really difficult to find, particularly if you're on a budget and you don't want to support massive online retailers who are known for repeatedly stealing from artists, among other things. So, to solve that problem, today I'm going to be indulging my inner child and making some fun fairycore jewelry with this. Let's Resin's UV Resin Starter Kit, which they kindly gifted to me for the purposes of this video. So, let's see what we can make with this kit and a few creative ideas. Let's go.
What she forgot to mention is that she's never worked with rosin before in her life and has no idea what she's doing. But it'll be fine, right? Right?
Let's dig in to see what is in our kit. This very much brings me back to childhood. We have little cups and stirry things, lots of gloves, a silicone mold for making earrings, rosin tape. This is where things start to get exciting. Glitter. It very much reminds me of this little kit I had when I was a little girl from my grandmother. A little box with like fairy things in it, more glitter. These tiniest pressed flowers. These planet-themed stickers, pendant backings and bezels, the actual resin. It even comes with a light, tweezers, findings for the earrings, and some necklaces. Okay, so I am a total beginner when it comes to rosin. I have done some research, but this is gonna be an experimentation kind of day. It is very important to have your safety gear, which I learned on the internet. I'm ready for the apocalypse. I am not a professional. I am not a rosin expert. Please do your research and make sure you take all the safety precautions before you work with any kind of chemicals. Let's get started. I'm gonna start off with a simple mold, a tiny little one, because I think that will be the least pressure. It is a lovely rainy day out there, and I can smell the petrichor coming in through the open window. I feel like I'm about to do science experiments. And so begins the experimentation process. I found that this process was actually quite simple, but at the same time, there's a lot of nuance and complexity to it. It's knowing how much you can mix in, knowing how to get all those air bubbles out, how long to cure things. This is definitely something that you would get better at with practice. And I struggled at times, but at the same time, it's not that complicated, so it's a lot of fun. Once I'd gotten the basic process down, I moved on to getting a little more creative and working with these bezels and pendant backings. And this was where I really started to have fun and get into the whimsy and the fantasy aesthetic with the pieces I was creating. I experimented with using the mix-ins that came with the kit, but also adding a few of my own, some bits of preserved moss, and also some crushed geodes and crystals. Creating little compositions was absolutely delightful. I loved these preserved flowers. They're so delicate and small and precious and very nostalgic. They reminded me of playing with little flowers when I was a girl. I would stick flowers together to make little like fairy dolls. And here is the first set of finished pendants. I love actually how they turned out. This moon especially was one of my absolute favorites. And I really love celestial imagery, so this felt very me. I love this one too. It's very vintage and whimsical and a bit of dark fantasy too. My next experiment did not disappoint. I wanted to see what I could do with this silicone mushroom mold that I already had on hand. I really loved combining these nature-themed earthy elements like the moss and the mushroom shapes with some more sparkly fairy glitter. I'm very anxious here as to whether these have cured properly or whether they're going to be a total disaster. Couldn't really tell at this point, but they were in pretty decent shape. They had some really sharp edges, so I decided to do a couple more layers of resin, and they also needed some more curing, particularly on the back from the silicone mold. Okay, so a little update time. I've been really enjoying the process so far. It's kind of therapeutic. They are not perfect, for sure. Like this moon, there's a bunch of rosin that spilled out from the bezel. But this one is really cool, and I'm really liking the technique of using the mushroom silicone mold. For now, I'm gonna do one last session, and then it's time to actually start turning these into pieces of jewelry. It's been a long, busy day, and I don't have a ton left in me, but let's see how much we can get done. I've never been so happy to remove PPE in my life. I am so tired. I have about 3 brain cells left that are functioning, and one of them is telling me I need to pee, one of them is telling me I need to get a drink of water, and one of them is telling me I need to make more things. I've been having so much fun, but now, only now am I realizing how exhausted I am. My inner child is very nourished. So I ended up not working on the actual assembly process until the next day. It was pretty late when I finished working with resin, and I had cleanup to do, and I was just exhausted. I was a bit disappointed and frustrated because I had really wanted to keep this project to one day, though I did really go overboard in how many I made. So this assembly process took me several hours. The first thing that I did was lay out all the pieces and figure out kind of the basic design that I wanted to do with them. I had these necklaces and some findings that came with the kit, and I also used some of my own chain as well as some little charms and beads to add a little extra pizzazz to the finished pieces. I do find the actual assembly phase to be a bit tedious, and I was quite rushed here, so I just hurried through everything. It was a bit harder to enjoy it because I was in such a hurry, and I was pretty fatigued as well from the previous day, but I am really happy with how all of these turned out. Now, sadly, I didn't get much of it on film, but I did make 2 choker necklaces out of lace and ribbon. And these were a very simple sewing project where I basically just layered some lace and ribbon and sewed them down and added some fray check to the ends. And once those were finished, we were done. And it's time for the reveal. Hello. So I'm now on my phone camera because my camera battery died. This project took an entire 2 days instead of the 1 day I was hoping and planning it would take. I had other things I needed to do and I just got carried away. But I am very, very pleased with all of the things that I made. I think I made 12 necklaces and then 3 sets of earrings. But then I also have all of these, which I have yet to turn into jewelry. And then there were a whole bunch of other things that I made that I just didn't think turned out great. Maybe I was wrong at the beginning of this video. Maybe you can't have enough jewelry. Thank you so much for watching this video and making it all the way to the end. I really hope that you got something out of this video, that it sparked some joy, some creativity, and inspired you to bring a little more whimsy into your life, and hopefully try your hand at a little jewelry making as well. If you want to try out Let's Resin's products or their UV resin starter kit, which I used here today, you can go ahead and click the link in my description. And I would love to hear in the comments which of these projects was your favorites. And if you have any tips for jewelry making or UV resin crafting, because I am kind of a noob and it would be a great place to share tips for beginners and people who are just starting out. I hope you have a gloriously creative rest of your day. Bye for now.